So today we're going to talk about similar triangle word problems. And our strategy today is going to be to draw a picture. So for every word problem we're going to draw a picture, and you're going to see just how good of an artist I am today. All right, so let's look at number one. Number one says, a man 6 feet tall casts a shadow that is 12 feet long. So I'm going to draw a guy. Oh, let's try that again. I'm going to just draw a stick figure man, and he is 6 feet tall. And I'm going to draw his shadow, and his shadow is 12 feet long. Now I'm going to draw a building because a building is going to cast a shadow. Here's my nice building. It casts a shadow that is 200 feet long. Okay, so here's my building. Here's its shadow, and it is 200 feet long. And I want to know the height of the building. So I'm going to put an X where the height of the building should be. And now I'm going to look at this. This almost looks like a triangle, doesn't it? See, if I were to oh my gosh, I have two triangles here. These are similar triangles. So what I'm going to do with each of these questions is I'm going to set them up just as if they were similar triangles. So I'm going to identify my corresponding parts. 6 is the height of the man, and X is the height of the building. So those are corresponding parts. My 12 is the length of the man's shadow. 200 is the length of the building's shadow. So those are corresponding parts. So now I can write a proportion. The height of the man compared to the height of the building. The man's shadow compared to the building's shadow. Now, sometimes you know that we like to write triangle 1 or 2. Instead of doing that this time, I'm going to write man and building to keep us on track. Now I'm going to cross multiply, use that means extremes property. Twelve times x is 12x, and then I'm going to multiply 6 times 200. 6 times 200 is 1200. If I divide both sides by 12, I get that the height of the building is 100 feet. Now let's try another one. A 6-foot tall camping tent. Ooh, so let's draw a tent. How's that? Here's my tent. It's 6 feet tall. It has a 9-foot shadow. And that says it's positioned beside a cooler. Oh, let's try to draw a cooler. I don't know, guys. Does this look like a cooler? All right, the cooler has a shadow that is 6 feet long. And we want to know how tall the cooler is. So when I write my proportion, I'm going to keep my tent on top, and I'm going to put the cooler on the bottom. And I'm going to compare the height of the tent to the height of the cooler, and the length of the shadow of the tent to the length of the shadow of the cooler. So 6 to x and 9 to 6. Again, to solve my proportion, I'm going to cross multiply. 9 times x is 9x. I'm going to multiply 6 by 6. 6 times 6 is 36. If I divide that by 9, I get x is equal to 4. So the cooler is 4 feet tall. That is a tall cooler. That must be like a refrigerator, a mini fridge. All right. Now we have the shadow of a 4-foot pole. So let's draw a pole. I guess I'm just going to draw a pole like this. So the shadow of the pole, here's the shadow on the ground, is 10 feet long. A tower, okay. What kind of tower do we think it is? I guess I'm going to make it a cell phone tower. It is 200 feet tall. Oh, I forgot to label this as 4 feet, the height of the pole. Okay. What is the length of the shadow of the tower? So in the first two, we were looking for the height of the object. This time we're looking for the length of the shadow. But again, we're going to compare the height of the pole to the height of the tower and the shadow to the shadow. So I'm going to put the pole on top of the tower on the bottom. So the pole, height of the pole corresponds to the height of the tower. The length of the shadow of the pole compares to the length of the shadow of the tower. I'm going to cross multiply here. 4 times x is 4x, and then I'm going to multiply 10 and 200. 10 times 200 is 2,000. I can divide both sides by 4, and I get that the length of the shadow of my tower is 500 feet. One last question, and this looks like a long one. Let's read it. A tree casts a shadow that is 25.6 meters long. All right, so let's draw a tree. I draw a nice pine tree. I don't know why. I don't draw the big bushy trees. I only draw pine trees. But my tree casts my shadow, and the shadow is 25.6. Okay. Sophia stands at a distance of 13.2 meters from the base of the tree, so that her shadow meets the end of the tree's shadow. So Sophia is 13.2 meters from the base of that tree. And her shadow meets the end of the tree's shadow. Okay. If Sophia is 1.5 meters tall, determine and state the height of the tree to the nearest tenth. So here I'm going to put an X for the height of the tree. Now this question kind of looks like ones that we did the other day in class. We did questions where we had one triangle and then another triangle like this, didn't we? And if I were to draw a line right here, wouldn't it look like two triangles overlapping? All right, so we know how to solve this problem. We need to compare the tree's height to Sophia's height. Well, I already have that. And then I need to compare the tree's shadow to the length of Sophia's shadow, which I don't have right now. But I can find it out. So to find it out, I know the length of the entire shadow is that 25.6. And I know that Sophia stands at a distance of 13.2 meters from the base of the tree. So I can subtract 13.2 to get how long Sophia's shadow is. When I subtract them, I get 12.4. So now I have all the parts that I need to set up my proportion. I'm going to compare the height of the tree to Sophia's height. Tree's going on top, Sophia on the bottom. And I'm going to compare the tree's shadow with Sophia's shadow. All right, let's cross multiply. $12.4 times x is 12.4x. Then we're going to multiply 1.5 times 25.6. And I get 12.4x is equal to 38.4. Then I can divide both sides by 4, 12.4, to get x by itself. And when I do in my calculator, I get 3.09677, and it keeps repeating. Or it doesn't repeat, but it continues on. So because this continues on, it's a, non-terminating, non-repeating decimal, it looks like, but we also need to round this to the nearest tenth of a meter, according to my question. So to round, here's a reminder, we're going to look at the tenths place, and we're going to look at the number next to the tenths place, the hundredth place. And I'm going to ask myself, does that 9 make the 0 change to a 1? And the answer in this case is yes. So to the nearest tenth, x is 3.1, but usually we use this little curvy equal sign to say about. So x is about 13.1 meters tall. I think it's meters. Yep. That is all we have today on our mini lesson on word problems. So you're going to do some practice in a bit on word problems. Some are more straightforward, just like these, like we did at first, and some of them are going to be a little bit more involved, where Sophia is standing in the middle of the tree and the end of its shadow. So be aware of which one we're looking at. All right, guys, I will see you soon.